I don't think which John. There's so many Johns, it's hard to say which John may or may not have written those. So again, is it the same as the author of the Apocalypse, or the Apostle John, or you know, John of Ephesus? There's so many Johns. So that's a whole other question. So I can't even tell you what. James. It's very difficult to decide if that was written actually by James or someone in the Jamesian school. But for sure it's supposed to be James, the brother of Jesus, not James, the brother of John. For sure James is supposed to be James, the brother of Jesus. And Jude is supposed to be Jude, the brother of James, which therefore makes him Jude, the so-called second brother of Jesus. So again, and Jude is very sort of just a short little sketch. So it's so opaque, it's almost hard to to pull anything out of Jude. But the main thing in Jude is the way he announced himself, Jude, the brother of James. You know the letter of Jude? And also the fact that he refers to things like Balaam, which are very important allusions. And in addition, he speaks to the Son of Man coming on the clouds of heaven with the myriads of his angels, which is also a very important allusion for Jesus speaks of that. James was supposed to have spoken of that in his last appearance before the crowd in the Eusebius sources and so on. So that the coming of the Son of Man. Well, let me just pick that out, since I think I have it someplace. If I can pull it out of this bag of tricks here. Quickly.
Can I insert a thought?
Yeah, go on, sure.
My wife is Burmese, and her brother calls me his brother, which is common in Burma. Could this be going on?
Well, that's a long discussion. That's not something we could really talk about on one foot. I mean, I've written a whole book on that particular issue, but surely it could be going on. But on the other side of it, the Gospels make it pretty clear that he has 4 brothers, and who are my brothers and mother to me. His mother and his brothers come to him in their name. They're not the same as the apostles. But James is called, funnily enough, the brother of the Lord. But you see, in my work, I've tried to say, I'll just sum it up quickly for that 1,000-page book there, that it's easier to know the historical James than it is to know the historical Jesus. Because James hasn't been so overridden with theology that it's hard to approach him. So sure, that could be going on, but let me just read you this from Jude, the brother of James, and I think that's a real brother. So he says here, it's very good, it's very, here, line 14. And Enoch, the 7th from Adam, also foretold all of these, saying, now he ascribes this to Enoch, some book of Enoch that we maybe haven't seen. I'm not sure it's in the present book of Enoch that we're familiar with. Behold, the Lord comes with the myriads of his holy ones, to execute judgment against all, and to convict all the ones who are ungodly among them, regarding all their works of ungodliness, which they did in an ungodly manner, and regarding all the hard things which ungodly sinners spoke against him. So there is the proclamation of the Lord coming with his myriads of holy ones to execute judgment. That's line 15, in case you're looking for it. And that's in the Dead Sea Scrolls. That's in the Dead Sea War Scroll. The coming of the Lord with his myriads of holy ones to execute judgment like rain on the just and the unjust alike, as Jesus is said to say it in, I think, the Sermon on the Mount. In the War Scroll, it's on all that grows. Twice in the Dead Sea War Scroll. So these are, sure, the Dead Sea Scrolls are primary sources. So, again, I'm just talking about the primary sources in the New Testament to, Book of Acts, I don't think will help you too much. That's already a conglomerate book, which is so difficult to understand. It would take a half a term for me to go through it with you and try to make sense out of it. say, what do you mean? It's not a straightforward narrative? No, it's not a straightforward narrative at all. And the last part of it, if you know the book of Acts at all, I'm giving you some extra information here for you to come to grips with this material, is what we call the we document. How many are familiar with the we document? What's the we document? Why is it called the we document?
Is it from Acts it switches to?
Yeah, the narrative style switches from it, he, they, to we, I. It switches from what we call third person to first person. What did we just read that was in the first person, plural, singular? We is plural, I is singular. It's all very rational if you think about it. What did we just read you the other day? That was in the first person, plural. The pseudo-clementines. The pseudo-clementine recognitions that I read you was we went up to the Temple Mount, we saw our James do this, then we saw this. It was a report written supposedly by Clement, a 7-yearly report written by Clement to James as leader of the early church on things that he'd been doing over the last 7 years. So it is in the style of the we document in Acts, or vice versa. The we document in Acts is in the style of the pseudo-clementines. Because the whole of the pseudo-clementines are we. Either Peter or Clement reporting from travels abroad or travels along the coast of Lebanon and Asia Minor. So anyway, this we document in Acts, if you know your Acts very well, and I know probably most of you don't, when does it intrude into the narrative? Anyone know? Because the first part of the narrative is all he, they. Yeah, when? What chapter?
14.
Yeah, it's close, you know. It's 15, end of chapter 15. When Paul crosses into Europe from Asia, like at the Hellespont, going into Thessalonica. After the so-called Jerusalem Council, when James sends down his rulings to oversee communities, which is in chapter 15, I think it's maybe, could even be chapter 16 that it starts. And from then on, it sort of goes back and forth. Some of it is we, some of it is he, they. And it's like two different manuscripts were spliced together at some point by somebody. But anyway, the material from 16 or late 15, early 16, I think it may be 16 to 10, is after